When most people think about change and improvement inside of their life, it boils down to three different categories: wealth, money, and business, or relationships, or their health. Those are usually the three major areas. But what most people don't recognize is that the same things that make you successful in business and money and wealth are the same things that can make you successful in health or your relationship. When you get down to the root cause of what makes people successful in those three areas, it comes down to one thing, and that's exactly what we're talking about on today's episode. So keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today's a very special episode, not only because of the guest, but specifically because of the topic. I got started in business like 10 years ago. Most of you know my story, but for those of you that don't, I was broke, living with my in-laws. And I thought back then my biggest problem was money and lack of sales. But there are three major things that a lot of people want to change. And those come down to relationships, health, and money. And chances are, if one of those off, there are more than just one of those issues. And the reason why is because of bad behaviors and patterns. The same behaviors, the same identities, the same things that are going on in one affect all of them. And 10 years ago, not only was I dealing with money issues, but I was dealing with health issues. I had commitment sort of issues, dedication, staying consistent on certain stuff. And there was one person that allowed me to change all of that. And that mentor is Mr. Jim Fortin, who we have on the podcast. And today what we're going to talk about is if you're not getting something that you want in life, you've been struggling for at least 6 months in at least one of those areas, if not more, this will be one of the most powerful episodes that we've had on the podcast in a really long time. Jim's going to bring you through a process that he helped me go through when I was broke, living with my in-laws, dealing with self-doubt, self-esteem issues, and allowed me and helped me become the multi-million-dollar business owner that I am today. So Jim, it is such an honor to have you on the podcast. Welcome. Glad to have you back.
Hey, Brandon, it's good to visit. And did you write that down before you did it? That was actually really good.
I winged it. I'm pretty good at this thing called messaging and communication.
Oh, okay.
So I've been told. And so, if you like that intro and you thought it was good, maybe you guys should buy my messaging program. I'll teach you how to do it.
And by the way, so you guys, I appreciate everyone being here. Brandon and I are also very close personal friends. So if you hear us cracking up a lot here and there, that's going to happen because we do that a lot. But I have known him now. I was thinking, 11 years now when I saw you on Facebook, and I'm like, I can help that dude. Reached out.
Yeah. And that basically what happened is I did this webinar. I was teaching YouTube marketing back then. And I got this email from this guy, Jim Fortin. I had no idea who he was. He didn't have an online business yet. I think you were traveling around the United States teaching.
Hired gun.
Teaching.
I was a hired speaker.
Yeah. Teaching real estate agents how to sell more homes and stuff like that. And you just sent me this email and it was like, the gist of it was this. I watched your webinar, great information, presentation sucked. No one's going to buy. And I can help you with the sales and I would love to help you. And I thought that was like one of the worst sales pitches ever, but I didn't realize you wanted to help for free, and you did. And then we just became great friends, and here we are today.
Now we're stuck with each other.
Now we're stuck. And we added the third monster to the mix, Mr. James Wedmore, and the three of us just love getting together, and we all live really close to each other and become really good friends over the years. So it's been,
we'll talk.
Awesome.
We'll talk to him soon as well.
Yeah.
But what do you think your audience, I know you talked about it, but let's dig into what can really help some people in our time together, because I already know, and you know, because you've been there, a lot of people are stuck. They don't know why they're stuck. They keep trying to do things thinking they're going to create more, and it doesn't happen. So
I think the major theme here is there's people on the call that are listeners that are not getting what they want. And like I said in the beginning, it's usually in the form of relationships, health, money. It could be beyond that.
Right.
But I do know that if there's one area where you're like, I'm just really struggling here, there's more areas in your life. And the reason why you're struggling is usually because of the same root thing that you're just not aware of. So I would love for you just to give a little bit background about what you do first, the people that aren't familiar with you, and then let's dive into like, how do we start to identify what those are and change those things so that we can create lifelong transformation?
Okay, let's dig in there for a second. And what I like to say to keep it simple is I introduce people to who they are. I help people discover their true and higher self. And I don't mean that so much from a spiritual point of view, though I do mean that. But things we look at are what is the identity of the person trying to do X, Y, Z. So I help people actually identify who and how they need to be to create the outcomes that they want. Let's go in the best possible example, you here. If you repeat this, I'll deny it. You know, you're like a brother to me, but I admire you. I really do admire you a lot. And I'm saying that as if I didn't know you in the way that I do.
Yeah.
And I remember when you did your first, one of your first podcasts, your first, I'm sorry, not your podcast, but your
Webinar.
webinars.
Yep.
You literally typed it out word for word and read your webinar. And you weren't live camera, but you did your webinar and you read it literally.
Yeah.
And I thought when I heard that and heard about it, I thought most people would not be the kind of person to do that. They would get into their fear, their perfectionism, and all these kind of things. Especially fear of, am I going to do okay? Are people going to like me? Am I going to be good enough? And what I admire about you is even though you had the fear, which is why you wrote it all out, you did it.
Yeah.
And that is courage. And that's a major driver that you have, a way of your being, is that you are a courageous being, which has helped you create this multi-million-dollar business you have. So that's what we look at, is not the behavior, but what's the driver of the behavior.
Well, because of who you identify as or see yourself as will dictate the actions that you take, if I'm understanding this correctly, right?
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
you know that being around me, it's our self-image. Many of us, we set goals, but here's the problem with setting goals. Let's say that you set a goal it doesn't apply to you because you're not overweight,
Right.
but let's say you set a goal to lose 40 pounds or make $1 million or whatever it is. And those look really good when we write them down. And many years ago, I can't tell you the amount of notebooks I had like this with all my goals. I'd look at them 5 years later and I wasn't any further along.
Yep.
And what we have to look at is who is the person doing the behaviors that's trying to create the goal. And you know what? You know me very well. I lost my train of thought. What was that original question you just asked me? And I'll back up to make sure I answer it.
I don't even remember.
Both of us.
We both lost our train of thought, but I do want to make a point to say this. To really give it a great example of what you're talking about right now, as a successful business owner, we're constantly doing things where we have to like walk off the cliff and hope the net appears, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I was always, being one of four boys, so used to like being afraid of doing something, doing anyways, because if you don't, you get called like a wuss or you're like weak or whatever. So like, go do that bike jump that's 20 feet wide or long, and you would just go and do it because you're around a bunch of boys. So I was just used to doing that sort of thing. So when it came to business, that was a part of like almost what I would pride myself on being. Even in college, as like a Division I NCAA runner, living with like 5 college dudes, where you just go put yourself in the pain every single day in workouts. And it was just a competition of who's the toughest. Yeah. And that was a part of my identity. It was a part of who I have become. Yeah. So when we got into business, it was like, that's just what you do. And the other night, I don't even think I told you this, Jacqueline signed up for a women's beginner tennis class. Nice. And she was very afraid to do it. And in my mind, I'm like, it's a tennis class.
No big deal, right?
Yeah. But for her, it was like something brand new. She doesn't really push herself out of her comfort zone too much. And this was huge for her. And she's doing, our kids are out of the house. So she's like rediscovering herself and she's going through all these things. And I'm actually watching her and witnessing her identity sort of change. And I remember thinking the things that she's going through, and like, those are massive to her, but they wouldn't be to me. Why is that? And that was where I went, was like, this was your identity since a little kid and it wasn't hers. And it completely controls actions you take and things like that. So where I want to go with this is, are you saying that if someone doesn't have the results that they want, is it quite literally because who they think they are doesn't line up with what they want? Like if they say they want $1 million business, but they aren't being that person, that's the major reason why they aren't having it. And that could, again, be health, relationship, money, all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
let's go two directions with this. Number one, you said about being a runner.
Hmm.
That's part of who I am. Those are
Yeah.
your exact words.
Yeah.
So let's take that into business.
Yeah.
Now, analytically, you might think, I want $1 million business,
Hmm.
10 million, whatever it is,
Right.
but you never achieve it. So
Hmm.
what you have to look at is when I said part of you, what's that other part of you that is what we call subconscious or unconscious? That is your operational system running in the background. So right now, because I know we text a lot, I know you got your phone about 2 feet from you. But on your phone right now, it's probably in your hands. You're probably texting me as we're doing this because you can do it without even looking.
He's like, Jim,
But
you got a booger in your nose. Don't look now, but
don't look now. Okay, don't
just
wipe.
kidding.
Right now, I wipe. But here's the thing. With your phone, you always have your apps running in the background,
Yeah.
right? Your
Yeah.
battery, everything's running.
Yeah.
Same thing with all of us. Even though you and I are talking right now and people are listening right now, they have their apps running in the background. And their apps came from their childhood. Do you
Hmm.
remember when Will was about 4 years old, your son,
Yep.
and you were playing on the couch and you were playing? And I said, Brandon, you're teaching Will to be playful because
Hmm.
that's the way you are also.
Yeah.
So our parents teach us to be poor or to struggle or that we're going to get old and overweight, and the word people use is fat as we get older. Or
Right.
I was taught you have to struggle to get what you want in life. That's literally what I was taught. So my old part of me, that paradigm, you have to struggle for everything. And I didn't believe that I deserved it unless I struggled for it. And if I
Right.
struggled for it, which was a lot of work, didn't make a lot of money, then air quote, I deserved it.
Right.
So to finish this up, is you have to look at what you want to create in life. And for you and your audience, it's business. But if you're not wealthy in your mind and you're not a successful business person in your subconscious identity, not your mindset, but your subconscious mindset. Your
Right.
analytical mindset is one thing. Oh, I'm going to make $1 million. And it doesn't happen. That's analytical. Your subconscious is what you do because that drives you with no conscious thought. And if
Right.
you don't reprogram the subconscious mind to be wealthy, no matter what you do, you will never be wealthy. Final
Hmm.
comment, you as a runner, so I could take you with all of your physical body back then and put you in a competition. But if you had a belief that you were a slow runner, or why would you ever be good at it, no matter how good you were physically, you wouldn't do it because it wasn't in your self image. So
Right.
for you to take a leap, it was already there.
Yeah. There's been multiple times in my life where this is true. Like, I mean, it's true all the time, but there's like a couple of very specific examples where when I was running in high school, there was this guy who was kind of my arch nemesis. We would always go back and forth. And then one year I had won every race, every invitational, no matter how big it was, I won the first 3 races. And then I got to the course that day. And I remember thinking, I'm going to win this. It's in the bag. There's no decision on whether or not I'm going to win. I'm winning this race. And that
Yeah.
was literally, I'm like, that's it. I'm the winner of this race. I'd already made that decision. And I remember the final mile of that race, he was ahead of me. And I said, this makes no sense. Like, why is he ahead of me? How is he ahead of me? It makes no sense. So I caught up to him, and it was the most painful race I'd ever run in my life. But in the last quarter mile, I finally went past him, beat him, and he just gave up after that. And I won. I set a new course record. I hit a time that I never thought I was even possible for me to hit. But it was because I had already come to the conclusion of like, this is who I am. I'm the winner of this race. And there was no possibility of any other outcome. And I've used that sort of example throughout my entire life, especially after working with you, of like, okay, when I have a decision in business to make, where do you want to go? You wanted $5-10 million business. What decision does that $5 million business owner make right now? Do they get scared and not make the investment, or do they make the investment? Do they get scared and not make the hire, or they make the hire? And quite literally, I remember to this day sitting with you in Arizona,
Yeah.
when I was in a really bad financial spot after having a $500,000 a year business. I was in a really bad spot, taxes and my revenue dropped, and I needed to hire an integrator. I needed to hire someone. And I remember talking to you and you said, Brandon, where are you going to be in a year? And I said, I'm going to be at $1 million a year business. And you looked at me in the eyes and you said, if you know and believe you're going to have $1 million a year business, why are you worried about hiring someone that you need for $40,000 a year? It makes no sense. And I said,
Yeah.
you know what? You're right. Hired Taylor at $40,000 a year when she came on. And within 9 months, we had $1 million business. And those two are like the best examples I have of like, this is what Jim is talking about.
Yeah, but you also, a couple of things I need to cover there. Number one, you also had, I think, $40,000 in credit card debt at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I did.
And I even said to you, do you need to borrow some money from me so that you can hire somebody so that you can grow? Because I believed in you then.
Yeah.
Not so much now, but I did then. No, I'm kidding. Very much kidding. But you said the race, because people can take that the wrong way. You said, I'm going to win this race.
Right.
Now, that's auto suggestion, self talk. That can help. But I could say, for example, being my age, I'm going to win the triathlon in the 30-year-old age category. Probably not going to happen at my age. I'm
Right.
nearly twice that. Okay. So no matter how much I tell myself it's going to happen, that's conscious analytical.
Mm.
But I just had a buddy of mine stop and visit last week. He ran the 60-year and older triathlon race in Flagstaff about a month ago.
Mm.
He won the 60-year-old category. But in his mind, he sees himself as a top world athlete that's 60 years old, not 30 years old, different abilities. So
Yeah.
positive thinking is one thing, but you know what? You can think positively all day long. But if it's not in your identity about being wealthy or whatever it is, it ain't gonna happen until you reprogram the subconscious mind.
Let me expand on that because I see what you're saying and I see where I kind of messed up the concept a little bit. The identity of me being that top tier athlete, the person who's
Yeah.
going to win the races, dictates my actions of showing up every day,
Yep.
training hard, showing up consistently. And now I'm starting to take the actions that that winner needs to take,
Yeah.
like going beyond the normal effort, going beyond what everyone else is doing. So that's kind of what you're saying is like when you have the identity, you start taking the actions that then lead to the results that you want.
Yeah, let me
Correct?
give you an example. He's a friend. I haven't talked to him in a lot of years. His name is Troy Dumais. He's the only four-time Olympic diver to qualify from the United States, with the exception of Greg Louganis.
Mm-hmm.
And when he went to Beijing in 2012 or whatever to compete, he told me, we're having lunch one day, and he goes, so we flew to Beijing, and Troy has a couple of Olympic medals. He goes, we flew to Beijing, and we lost an entire day flying over the date line. And he goes, when I got to Beijing, I was already a day behind in training behind my competition.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make up that day. That's why that brain set, that subconscious identity set, is why he's the only American diver to ever be in the Olympics four times besides
Right.
Louganis. Just like you, when you know that subconsciously and that's who you are, it happens automatically with money, with relationships, with anything. But we have to learn who that person is and who we need to be to create the outcomes.
Yeah. And I see it all the time on even sales calls for a program where like I'll ask someone, do you trust in our process? Do you think messaging is a problem? It's like, yes, yes. Do you trust in me to fix this problem for you? Yes. Okay, here's the program. They're like, no, I
Nope.
can't do it. I'm like, well, you're stuck in sales, right? And they're like, yes. I'm like, this, and I asked them, do you really believe? Just tell me if it's a no, it's a no. Do you believe this program will fix it? Yes. Then why are you not getting in?
Here's the problem, Brandon,
Yep.
is, and I see a lot of this because we have a lot of the same students. I mean, my tribe
Right.
follows yours follows me, James, etc. They can trust in me and you all day long. And, we offer a guarantee, literally 100%. Go through the entire live program. We've
Yep.
had I think we've had 7 refund requests of the multiple thousands of people in 6 years. What we do works. But here's the reason we might have 30,000 people say, I want to be in the B to have training prior to us opening a door,
Right.
and they don't take the next step. Here's the reason why, and I hope everyone's listening. They trust you, but they don't trust themselves.
Right.
They don't think subconsciously they're going to follow through or they'll do the work or they're smart enough or whatever it is. So it's not you. People listening right now, if you're not getting what you want in life, it's because you don't trust you. Go look in the mirror. It's not the external world.
Right. That's where I was going with it, is there's a subconscious sort of identification that you have of like, that isn't me, or I can't have that. And I would imagine the same reason why we see pro athletes become millionaires but then lose it all, because they're still subconsciously identifying as someone without money or broke. Is that correct?
Well, let's go here. Let's look at Mike Tyson. Mike
Yeah.
Tyson in his career made over $300 million,
That's
330 million.
yeah.
He grew up in the Bronx broke. He grew up in poverty. So in
Mm,
his mind, he was broke. He earned 330 million, lost every bit of it. He's getting
mm,
some back now, but until he changes that identity, nothing's going to change. You have a lot of women listening. Look at Oprah, one of the wealthiest people in the world. Why do you think she cannot, air quote, lose weight? No matter what trainer, no matter what she does, she's always overweight. Why? Because when she was about, I think, 14, she was raped. Now, this happens a lot. When people are physically violated, they put on, the body puts on a padding like rape. So women can then say, okay, I've been raped. I'm going to be fat now. No one's going to want me anymore. And now I am safe. It's a
mm.
psychological defense mechanism against the pain. You
Right.
said something, I forgot what it was, but oh, we got to be careful though, because this element of you that makes you, literally, you and I are, we're so, we know we're so much alike.
Yeah.
We're both risk takers. We'll make things happen. We'll figure it out. And even when you see this all the time, people want to be in your program, but they say they don't have the money, but they stay broke, but they won't figure out. That goes back to the identity. But where I'm going here about being careful is you did something really stupid after college and it puts you in the hospital for a while because that element in you that will do anything and just because you're
Right.
dared.
Right. Yeah, I jumped off a cliff into a lake that was like 80 or 90 feet high and landed wrong and broke my back. But again, I'm a tough risk taker, so that's why I did it.
And that's why, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect to everyone listening, that's why they're listening to your podcast and the millions on mine, as opposed to us listening to their podcast. We're not any better. We're not any different than them, but we're not afraid to put ourselves out there. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of, is other people are going to judge me. Therefore, let me hide.
Gotcha. So how do we start to go to fix this? Like I would imagine there's a process of becoming aware of where you're at. How do we fix it? What is it? I know you mentioned be do have, and I know that's what I've used over the years, but what's the first step?
By the way, it's my trademark now too, be do
Yeah.
have. So
Be do have trademark TM
yeah,
copyright.
I got TM stamped all over it. Be do have, it's mine. Here's where we have to go. Number one is people will say to me all the time, Jim, I'm my own worst enemy. I'm stuck and I don't
Mhm.
know where I'm stuck. That's not true. You want to know where you're stuck? Look in the mirror. Look at your bank account. So look at you, because you grew up without, I mean, you grew up in a very stable financial environment, but after college, you didn't have a lot of people you could depend upon, right?
Right. Right.
Financially. You had to figure it out. And then that goes back into you're the person who will get crap done because that's who you are. Now,
Right.
how do you fix it? Number one, you don't have to think about who you are subconsciously. People ask me all the time, who am I subconsciously? Go look in the mirror. If you're broke, that's who you are subconsciously. If you're 100
Mhm.
pounds overweight, minus a physical ailment, which you can heal, that's who you are subconsciously. If you've been
Right.
in 7 marriages, that's what your subconscious paradigm about relationships are.
Mhm.
You, me, I've been in a 21-year relationship. You know the ups and downs. You've
Yeah.
been in a 20-year relationship, right?
Yeah.
And in your mind, that's who you are. That's why you do what you need to do to make everything happen in your relationship. So we have to first recognize that nothing's going to change on the outside, which is what we try to change, until we change the inside. Then we come to processes. Number one is there's several ways that I teach people to approach this. What we have to look at is What do I want to create in life? What's my vision for my life? Then we have to look at who do I need to be? What we always look at is what do I need to do? Let's talk about be, do, have for a moment.
Yeah.
Most of us work backwards. Have, do, be. If I had, Brandon, I want to register for your course, but I can't because I'm broke. If I
Right.
have or had more money, then I could register. And then if I registered, I could do all these things also, and then I could be successful. That's
Right.
have, do, be. If I had money, I'd do it, I'd be successful. I thought
So
that
then
way
what
for
they
decades.
what they do in that situation is they literally will tell me or whatever is I need to do a launch first. I have the money, then I'll do it. But then the
Right?
launches never perform, which
Right?
means then they just never get in and they never fix the problem.
Yeah, and so where we need to work from is be, do, have.
Right.
And this is what drives you and I. Who do I have? And a lot of people listening, and a
Right.
lot of people, listening, but aren't really hearing it. Who do I need to be to do what I need to do to have what I want? Let's
Right.
get back to Taylor. Best example. Now, when you hired Taylor, what was that, 4 years ago?
Yeah, four or
You
five years
didn't,
ago.
yeah, 5 years ago, you didn't air quote have the money.
Right.
Now, that's where most people quit right there. I don't have the money, therefore I'm not going to do it, therefore nothing changes. But
Right.
they want things to change. So I look back to who and how were you being, which then led you to say, you know what? I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to step out there. I'm going to hire Taylor. It scares the crap out of me to do it because all this money and I think you had Will and you had Lily at that point.
Hmm.
Maddie wasn't here yet. You got two kids, you're married, you got your own home, not a family to fall back on, and you're
Right.
still in the game playing. That's how you
Yeah.
were being. So until you're being that person, and we have to program that through subconscious reprogramming or through behavior. We first have to look at who do I need to be and how do I need to do what I need to do to create the outcomes that I want. That's what you did of Taylor. But if
Yeah.
you had said, I don't have the money, I just can't, you would be like 80% of people, guys, and a lot of people don't like me, and I get that, and Brandon and I laugh about it and talk about it. I just tell you the way it is because I can't help you if I sugarcoat it.
Right.
And the way it is, you can hope and wish and want and pray all day long that things are going to change. They ain't. And if you work from, I've got to have it first, you're working from circumstance. When you work from circumstance, which you didn't do, Brandon, when
Right.
you work from circumstance, you will repeat your circumstances, period, no matter what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, I mean, for me, it was as simple as like understanding the concept. And then I was able to go like, okay, let me switch this real quick. I'm going to go through be do have when anytime I need to make a decision. I'll be honest, it wasn't a very hard switch for me to do. It was just
Yeah.
kind of like, let me just do it. And that has to do with a lot of work that I've done, especially with like working with Don Javier and like losing attachments to things. Cause I think that a lot of the reasons why people can't make that switch as easy as I did is they're too attached to what they do have. So it's kind of like,
Correct.
well, I'm too attached to my house or to the money that I do have, or like not going further into debt. But when you lose all attachment, you're like, I really don't care if I lose the house or if I do whatever. It becomes really easy to make that switch. Do you find that to be true? Like if people don't very easily make that switch, is it because they are too attached to other things going on or the
That's
way they are?
100% accurate, but it's also brain based. And everything I talk about, you can find research to substantiate it,
Right.
is that we will seek, let's say this is worth $1 million, just a coaster, okay? It's
Yeah.
worth $1 million. But if I did something with this, I could make 2 million. But where we go, brain based, is we're survival based mechanisms, human beings.
Right.
So if I've got 1 million, I'm not going to risk my million to make
Yeah.
2 million because I'm safe with my million. It's the bird in the hand, so to speak. But
Yeah.
here's the problem. To go a little deeper into that, let's say that this is only 50,000 a year and you
Right.
want to make 500,000 a year. I won't let go of my 50 to make 500. And that's the leap that you've made, I've made, and a lot of us have made that are very, very financially and business successful. You look at every great achiever, they have to make the leap. And until you
Yeah.
do that, things aren't going to change.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When back then it was easy to lose the attachments because I kind of had the mentality of like, I don't really have much. I have negative money. Like if I had zero in my bank account, that would be better than what I have now, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, whatever, screw it. Like I'm just not attached. It's actually harder for me to do be do like live the be do have model on financial stuff now because I actually have money that I could lose, you know?
Mhm.
I have that safety net and I actually find it harder now. And, you know, a year ago we had a launch. It didn't do well, didn't perform. It wasn't enough money that I needed to carry us for the 6 months.
Mhm.
And I had the savings, I had all this stuff, and I had to tell myself, look, like, you're going to be fine. You have all, you can liquidate and everything's be fine if you don't make any more sales. But I had to invest another 40, 50, 60,000 something in there to bring on mentors, different coaches, get the help that I needed in a spot where it was very, there was no
Scares you
financial.
even more.
Yeah. And now, to be honest with you, that was a lot harder to do than it was hiring Taylor in that moment because I had so much more to lose. It was like, I kept thinking, you don't have money to lose right now. You need to gain it. And I had to keep going, like, what do I need? The person who comes out on the other side, what do they do? Like, they invest, they get the help. Okay, just freaking do it. And it was hard. It was so much harder because and it was a great eye opener because I realized, wow, you're really attached to the money that you have right now. And
Let's
I
go here
didn't
for a moment. That is
know that.
correct. Let's go here. Give me just an average story of what someone who's come in with you into your training and done the work. Okay, just think of
Mhm.
someone they've come in. I don't want to lowball anybody listening. I don't want to highball. I
Yeah.
want just the average person. They do what you say and they get results.
Mhm.
If you can even project or let me know this, what do you think their average increase in income is per year?
It's hard to say because everyone's all over the ballpark, but I remember one that pops right off the head is someone literally doubled their revenue in 12 months. Like,
Okay,
and they
that's
were
all I need.
already a seven-figure business.
That's all I need. They double their income. So
Yeah.
then we can say, okay, if I invest with James Wedmore or Brandon or Jim, it's going to cost me three, five, eight, $10,000, whatever it is. I'm too focused on the cost as opposed to the return. Number one.
Right.
Secondly, what they don't stop and calculate because we tend to think only in the moment. Okay, what if Brandon can deliver? Now,
Mhm.
okay, I'm making 100 grand a year. But what if he can, and from everything I can substantiate, he can deliver? If he can deliver and I can make an additional $100,000 per year, and I'm going to be in business 30 more years, that's an additional $5 to $7 million just by compounding it.
Right.
So I can spend 5,000 with Brandon, or I can lose 5 to 7 million. And what we'll do is we'll not think of it that way, and we'll lose the 5 to 7 million. Why? Because we want to save that 5,000.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. I wanted, we've been talking a lot about money. I want to talk about
Yeah,
how this applies to like, let's just pick weight loss, for example.
sure.
Because I have a question, a clarifying question. So let's say someone is overweight and they want to lose the weight.
Or in bad health, both.
Or yeah, or bad
Yeah.
health. And there is that subconscious sort of belief or identity of I'm not someone who can lose the weight. Is it more of like I'm not like an in shape person, therefore I'm not going to do this? Or is it more around like I'm just not a workout person or I'm not a consistent person? Or is it all of it combined together? Like where's the subconscious belief on health stuff usually coming in? Is it one thing, multiple things that are going on?
Well,
Is it all?
first off, a lot of people listening right now are going to say, "Well, I'm overweight and I can't help it. It's my genetics. My mother was overweight or my family's overweight." I had Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, on the podcast last year.
Yeah.
Um, Bruce is kind of known as one of the pioneers in the field of epigenetics.
Right.
Epigenetics is your life is not determined by your genetics. What you think, literally, what happens in your mind affects what happens in the body, which affects your genetics.
Yeah.
So, for the healing or the weight or anything, we have to see ourselves as a healthy person. We've been very close personal friends for a lot of years. You've been on my journey with me.
Yeah.
In 2020, you said to me at the end of the year, well, it looks like it's not your time to leave the planet yet. You know, I had the heart failure in February, and then I had a stroke in November. You saw me moving into a brand new renovated home, no
Right.
furniture except a lawn chair, and you were helping unpack dishes, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I take the things that I teach and I break it down in the course of TCP, and that I had to use my own teachings. What's my vision for my health? What is my vision for being, or how am I being committed to my health? How am I being 100% responsible? My ways of being to my health. What will I commit to? What will I discipline? So I had to modulate my behavior with my ways of being that would create the healthy person that I am today. So, but that happened because of what a lot of people do in life in every category is they give up and they say, "Oh, I can't do X, Y, Z." No, it's not that you can't do it, it's that your current identity can't do it. Because your
Yeah.
life is not determined by what you do, it's determined by your characteristics, which are your identity.
Right.
Relationships, the three biggies: money, health, relationships. So we talk a lot and we share all of our personal stuff. Being in a relationship for a lot of years, I don't have to tell you, you're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs. You're going to be some
Yeah.
times like this is great and this really freaking sucks. Been there, right? You
Yep.
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Been there,
But you
done
look
that.
at who is this person in the relationship. In the US, over 50% of people get divorced. We've said for a lot of years, and I didn't tell you this, but we've said for a lot of years, am I more committed to what I think I need and want out of the relationship? Or am I more committed to developing a healthy relationship with this person I want to be with? That commitment, that way of being is what's gotten us through a lot of things. And without recognizing it, you're the same.
Yeah. No, I do recognize it. You answered a really, really important question that I had in my head, which was like, when it comes to relationships, if people just have that subconscious sort of identity again, and are being someone who's in a committed relationship, can it lead to you just staying stuck in a really bad relationship because you're like
Yeah.
identifying as, I'm not a person who gets divorced? And we all see that. We all see people that have been married for 50 years, should have gotten divorced 20 years ago. But you said a key word there. Am I being someone who's in a healthy, committed relationship, which makes all the difference in the world? That one word, healthy, committed relationship. Because that was my question, is like, can't this, like you said, lead to like dangerous things too if you just identify with
Yep.
something that
Let me,
isn't? Yeah, go ahead.
this can be really mind opening for a lot of people. There was some research done at the University of Texas in Austin in the 70s. Very obscure research. What it demonstrated, however, is that like identities attract like identities.
Yeah.
Let me tear into that. So you and I, the three identities that hang out the most and talk a lot are you and James and I.
Yep.
We are all multimillionaires. It doesn't mean we don't help people and all this, but we're not hanging out with people that are struggling to put two nickels together. Not
Yeah.
because we're bad, we think we're different, any of that, but birds of a feather flock together. You've heard that before.
Yep.
Okay. Now, identities. We attract whatever our identity is, we attract. Now, let me take that apart and explain it because there's a flip side to it. A lot of people don't recognize. So, if you see yourself as a confident person and you're not in a relationship, but you're getting in one, you will attract someone who values confidence in people.
Right.
But if you see yourself as worthless and not having any value and really low self-esteem, you will automatically gravitate towards people who will validate that you're worthless. This is why I'll just pick a man and a woman. The woman she's in an abusive relationship. She gets out and everyone's like, thank God Susan's out of that relationship. She goes right back to another man that abuses her as well. Why? To wrap this up, she will seek out men who will abuse her, and men will seek her out who think that women need to be abused. They complement each other's identity. So that's how it plays out in their relationships. Yeah. If a person has really low self-value and self-worth, they'll attract that back, which reinforces their low self-value and low self-worth.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. This is not, it translates so well to even the messaging concepts we talk about when I talk about connection. As I say, human connection is always formed from similar identities, values, and beliefs. And the stronger they are with you,
Yeah.
that they are to the other person, the stronger the connection you're going to have to them is. And so you're saying the exact same thing.
Let
So,
me add there. Let's concretize it in the real world.
sure. Yeah.
So we're not talking politics here, but you look at how polarized the United States is.
Right.
You got your Democrats in one camp, you got your staunch Republicans in another. We know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you won't find the Democrats. It blows my mind that families are breaking apart because of politics.
Right.
So you have people that are all on the left that are not hanging out or talking to people on the right. People on the right all hanging out with people on the right, not talking to people on the left.
Right.
Why? We only gravitate towards similar identities. This is why in San Francisco or New York City, you have Chinatown, you have Little Italy, you have Koreantown, you have Germantown, you have Polish Town, you have the gay section of town. You have all these sections because we aggregate and move towards our own identity.
Right.
And if
It
we're
makes
broke,
sense.
Brandon, I know I got to go here. Keep on going with you.
Yeah.
If we're broke, what a lot of people do is they stay in environments with people that also have broke identities. Those people with broke identities reinforce the broke identity. You can't afford that. You can't do that. Who do you think you're going to be? So I listen because I'm broke and I stay in that environment, which keeps me in that environment.
And that's why they always say like you're going to be a result of like the top 5 people that you hang out with the most.
Oh
And
God, does that mean you and James? I'm in trouble.
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say you're lucky to be hanging out with us because
You guys are in good company with me, and I'm in great
yeah.
company with you guys.
But even when they say like, if you're hanging around broke people and you don't want to be broke, then go hang out with people that have money, or if you're overweight, go hang out with people that are in shape. I would imagine when that happens, you start to adapt the sort of identity and behaviors of
Yep.
those people, which is why you start to transform your
That's
life.
exactly because you start thinking if they can do it, and you start listening, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
This is why when I used to train a lot of agents, you've been to my homes
Yeah.
and I'm at your home, we vacation together and all that, but I live in a nice place. Once I get it finished, finally, I live in a nice place. The front door went in today, by the way, and the door
That's
handle's
great.
wrong.
Good.
But I
You can
went, I,
walk in your house now.
I live in a nice place. Now, if I were to put my home on the market and I just put it out there, I guarantee you, I would bet you $10,000 that if we could survey and we could watch accurately, people that have sold multi-million dollar homes would want to be the agent on this house. People that only sell $500,000 homes or $200,000 homes, they won't even approach me about being my agent. Why? In their mind, they can't manage a deal like this. They're not the kind of person to make those kind of commissions and to work with clients with high-end homes. That's how we think that life is about doing, but you have to look at the being, doing, the doing.
Yeah. And the model you use, which we mentioned already, is be, do, have.
Right.
And I know that you have a training on it coming up that I want to invite everyone to go to. So if you're sitting there going like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Something in my relationship is off, something in my health is off, or money or business. No matter what I do, I'm not able to get past this block. This is a training that you absolutely need to be on. So can you walk the audience through like what that training is? And then we'll give a link for them to go register. Like what are they going to experience through each of those days?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that, but I'll give them a little tidbit here to show them
Okay.
how powerful it is.
All right.
You ever read a book before that?
No.
Oh, okay. Best example is me, but it applies to all of us. You don't read a lot of books, so except dirty
Go ahead.
magazines. But no, I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding, guys. But here's the thing. When I was in my 20s, I read Think and Grow Rich. I don't know how many times. The classic book, Think and Grow Rich. But I was always poor for another 10 years after that. I was broke, but I had all this analytical knowledge. And what we have to look at, and something I talk about in B2 Have, is we have to look at the context of who we are. Now, the context is our beliefs, our values, our filters, our subconscious identity. That determines everything. But we think if I read more content and I go to one more webinar and I go to one more this and that and watch one more free YouTube video, I'll get it. But we never get it. Why? Because the content is not consistent with the context, which are the beliefs, the values, and the identity. This is why, and this is what we talk about in the B2 Have program, you've got to shift your brain-based habits. They're not psychological, they're brain-based habits. You've got to shift your brain-based habits. You've got to shift your subconscious identity. And then what are the things you want to shift them to? And that's the paradigm of B. What are your ways of being? Which we talk about all these things in B to have. Right. It's good to be motivated, but that's, again, if you're motivated, part of your context is, let me rah everything, but you never achieve it. Why? Because you're not the kind of person who would do it. So what we do in Be to Have is we take this all apart in a 3-part series. We take it apart and look at why, and then how to start fixing these things.
Piecing it together. Yeah. So if you want to register for that, it's completely free. It's a series coming up. All you need to do is go to brandonlucero.com/Jim, just JIM, all lowercase, brandonlucero.com/Jim. You can register for this training. And guys, this is not me just hyping something up. This concept in Jim literally is what helped me become a 7-figure entrepreneur. Like dead broke, living in my in-laws, going through all the hurdles I had to go through. When Jim would walk me through Be to Have, it's when I finally started to see a lot more momentum in the business. Like if I could boil it down to one thing to do, this is it. So brandonlucero.com/Jim, go register, check it out. You won't regret it. And let me know how it goes. You guys can send me messages on DMs, on Instagram. If you have any questions, I'm here to help you through this series. So again, brandonlucero.com/Jim. And Jim, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today, sharing this with everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon. It's good to be here today. And hopefully people take this away. It doesn't matter what you do. People do things all day long. They work a lot of jobs and they work hard. What matters is who you are being. And if you're not getting what you want, it's because you are not being that person at the identity level. Until that changes, nothing will change. So let's make sure you guys get registered. As Brandon said, it is free. I'll walk you guys through this. Thank you, Brandon.
Yep. All right, guys, go over to brandonlucero.com/Jim. I'll see you there. And if you have not left us a review on iTunes yet, please head over and do that. Love reading the reviews. And I'll see you guys all on another episode next week. Take care.
5-star.
5-star.
Yes. 5-star review. Don't just say reviews, 5-star reviews. Thanks, B.
You leave me a 1-star review, you're going to get it. All right. I'm going to spam you or something. All right, guys. Take care. Hey, guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested. And thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.